Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to a spoiler-filled discussion for Marvel Television's Ironheart. So, what do you say? Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. My name is Nate, and this is our spoiler-filled, very brief little discussion. We're trying something a little bit different here for Marvel Television's Ironheart. A huge thanks, as always, to our lovely friends at Disney Studios Canada and Marvel Studios for letting us watch this miniseries early for review and for discussion. And we literally just wrapped. I'm here with my digital assistant for research, calculation, and yield, otherwise known as Darcy. We just wrapped our spoiler-free discussion, and throughout it, there were just so many moments where we're just like, but also, so let's talk a little bit about this series in as much spoiler-filled capacity as humanly possible, or demonly possible. That much. I think if you call something a spoiler filled, you don't have to say they're spoilers, because that way it might have been a bit of a
apparent. I think in the title,
a bit of a. Okay, good. If you've gotten this far at this point, it's on you. Okay, I'm sure Marvel Twitter has already spoiled something like 24 hours after, within the release of this episode or the final episode, but before we get to the big red man, I wanted to kind of jump in and kind of talk a little bit to the spoiler filled elements that we kind of get leading up to one of the biggest twists that I personally would have loved to have seen in an episode 2. I understand that these dropped 3 and then 3, but I think it would have made so much more sense for it to have been the big reveal at the end of episode 2, because I think the end of episode 2, I'm pretty sure, just ends with Joe getting upset at his neighbor or something. But we get a big pop in episode 3. Joe is not Joe. Joe is Ezekiel Stane. Darcy, what did that do for you?
I loved that reveal. It's the fact that we're getting another mentor figure from a Stane over someone who's making an iron suit, and we just see, like, again, as the story goes on, like what his father's legacy has done to him and how people don't know the whole truth about him and all that stuff. I love this, like, tortured soul character that we got, and just the lengths he's pushed to by Riri and by the Hood throughout this series. It's just like, you feel so bad for the guy, but also can't stop rooting for him. Like, he is still the nicest guy, even when he's being used as a puppet and is just destroying a bunch of security guards. Like, he's so much fun. I loved it.
Yeah, I think he was a lot of fun. I thought his power set was really interesting as well, with like the electricity and what have you. I think he was kind of he to me, when he was getting angry, I still didn't fully believe him, but that's part of his character. It's not that he didn't perform that well. I think he was just one of those characters that I'm like, okay, buddy, like, calm down. Like, he
doesn't know what he's trying to do. He's just like, right. Like, yeah.
He's got all this pent up rage. But I think I really did enjoy his character, and I think I like how it ties into the themes of legacy, right? With with I think in the first few minutes of Riri getting expelled from MIT, and her dean, by the way, being from the Dean in Community, is awesome.
Well, I mean, the fact that he's returning from Iron Man, like...
right? True. Yes, true. And there's some other really fun Iron Man Easter eggs throughout that I might try to pick up from my notes here. But the fact that in the first few minutes she's compared to Tony Stark, like, he would have been so disappointed. This is how you treat his legacy. And we kind of I think I had mentioned in the spoiler free how I didn't fully jive with Anthony Ramos as the Hood, but I think the moments where it really worked for him were in his backstory, and then learning that one of these CEOs that they're going after was his father. I think that, for me, that sequence, I was like, okay, I'm in. Like, I'm intimidated by him in that sequence. And it's not something I could bring up necessarily in the spoiler free, but looking back at it, I think that and how it ties into legacy really works. And then again, with Ezekiel Stane and the fact that he doesn't want to necessarily be his father again, and he's sort of pulled into it. All of these things are so dynamic and so interesting. I would have liked for them to maybe have had a bit more focus overall on the series so that we could sort of feel that a bit more. But it was awesome to get the beginning points of it at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really cool, and I think that again, the scene where the Hood is like we find out that it's more than just him going after the rich bigwigs; it's a very personal thing. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's when like, it's meant to be the moment where you clue in this guy is more dangerous than he lets on. He isn't just some small time thug, like magic and everything. He actually has a scary like motive right now. He wants to rule the world and be as rich as possible, and doesn't care who he hurts to get there. So, I think that was really cool, and yeah, again, just Joe's whole story is incredible because in the comics, from what I'm familiar with him, he has always just been an insane psycho cyborg who's an enemy of Tony Stark. But the fact that we're getting such a more complex and rich character who doesn't want to do the things he's being forced to do, but also has such brilliant ideas that could be turned to the wrong thing. Like he wants to turn himself into a weapon, but it's more for longevity and for to help people, not to dominate through power. And it's such a cool story to get that mirror and full circle everything. I don't know. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, because I think even in that way, it's a mirror three ways, right? It's a
Yeah.
mirror to the Hood. And I think a lot of it has to do with manipulation, which
Mm-hmm.
we will circle back to in a moment. But I did want to also call out some really wonderful little Easter eggs that I caught. I'm trying to see like. Of course, I love the shout out to Spy Kids, which isn't a Marvel thing, but I liked it. But we did see. I think it's literally in the first episode, yeah, we did get a Easter egg with Scott Lang's book, which you can actually buy.
Mm-hmm.
Look out for the little guy, which was awesome. And then in the restaurant, in the White Castle restaurant, the arms are there making the burgers in the
Yes.
background.
Yeah.
The like Tony Stark. I can't remember if that character had a name or not, but
Helper, I
his
think was that
whatever
no.
he was, but that little
Yeah.
helper arm bot. There were
Yeah.
two of them.
Yeah.
In the background, as
I
they were
noticed that
being
too.
fought around, they're still trying to construct
Yeah.
burgers. I thought
And
that was great.
just on the topic of that scene, that reminded me. So Roz and Jerry, the blood siblings,
Mm-hmm.
those are very loosely inspired on some comic book characters, the Blood Brothers,
Okay.
aliens from another planet that are bounty hunters who really suck at their job. So I do like the fact that we just got a name homage with Roz and Jerry, the blood siblings in this series, and I like the whole team. They're all inspired by people from the comics. The what was it? Scum? Was that with the hacker? He was from Madripoor, but he is like I'm pretty sure Wolverine has spoken to him in the comics before, trying to find information or something like
Oh
that.
yeah,
So
so
like
I did do a little bit of reading on Slug. So Slug in this,
Slug, that's who it
played
is,
by
right?
Shea Coulee, they are very much a hacker and also previous drag queen, which apparently is supposed to be informed by the costuming for the
Yes,
character.
you can. I definitely was picking up on that for
And
sure.
by the way that Shea Coulee sachets away from a car wreck,
The
which
best walk away ever. Like, he's just
crazy.
like, you know what? Or they're like, I've had enough.
Yeah.
I'm out of here. See you later.
Yeah,
Type
nope.
thing.
Which was both the most unrealistic and realistic moment at the same time. Where I was like, there's no way that they would sashay away from a car wash, but at the same time, I'm like, nope, that's totally in their character, so
Yeah.
it made
Yep.
sense.
It fit.
But just in terms of the Hoods gang, I had mentioned in the spoiler free that there was a heist scene. We did get a heist sequence in this that I thought was a lot of fun. I think it was like their first job that they pull off, and I thought that whole sequence, that whole section of that episode was fantastic. I was thinking it would have been so cool if that's where we'd started. I think it would have been really neat to do the whole
And this is how I got here.
and
Type
yes,
thing.
and then it cuts
Yeah.
back to her, getting suspended from school, and we get to sort of go up to that point. I think could have been really cool. You sort of maybe end that moment with the bullet shot or something, and then come back to it. That's if I was writing this show. Sorry, that's what I would have done. Let me push my glasses up. But but I think the other thing I wrote down in my notes after the third episode, after sort of seeing, we're seeing him get sort of we're seeing Anthony Ramos's character Parker getting more and more covered in scales, and it's like, okay, I kind of see where we're going here.
He's burning
And
from the inside out.
he's burning from the inside out. I thought it would have been really neat if, because they sort of kept these characters a little bit more loose, that we said in the spoiler free that they were blending together a little bit with the Hood gang. Thought it would have been really cool if maybe we got some fun, like just a fun horror episode where they're all being picked off one by one, sort of done in like they're locked in a house or in like a warehouse or something. I thought could have been kind of neat, especially with where we end up. But even before we get to that, Darcy, I want to ask you about Zelma.
Uh, she's definitely in the comics. I just don't know what from.
Okay,
So
no
I
worries.
just I thought the next thing we were going to talk about was Natalie, because we talked about Natalie, but we didn't
Oh,
talk about
true.
how she was used in this story, which I
Okay,
think was
okay.
really cool. Because in the comics, Riri's AI is the recently deceased Tony Stark, who transferred his consciousness into an AI motherboard so that he could guide the next Iron Hero.
Mhm.
And everyone probably was hoping that we could see some form of that in the show, and I understand why they didn't want to go that route, because don't get Tony Stark back for just something like this. Also, we have Robert Downey Jr. coming back for Doom soon, so make some distance between that. And the way they used her best friend, and again part of her origin story, but why she makes the suits, because her stepfather and best friend died in a drive-by shooting, just a random act of violence that no one could have predicted type thing. I just love that origin story, and how that causes all the panic attacks. We see an AI have a panic attack, which I thought was incredible. It really goes to show that even before she found the hood, there was some magic going on. The fact that an AI remembers almost her death, which is like, how does that happen? It's something
Mhm.
magical about it. I just love the whole creation of her and how her character was used throughout the story. I think it was one of the coolest twists they did to that original um, comic story. So yeah, I love Natalie. She's incredible.
Natalie was my favorite character on the show. I know you mentioned Zeke was yours, but I with Natalie, and especially with that glitch that you talked about, I love that line too. Like, you're not just a glitch, you're my glitch or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
It was great. But I think her having that panic attack, to me, that was the fact that she's born from Riri's relationship with Natalie, and in that moment, who knows what Natalie did, because they don't really show it that much. Yeah, her getting shot.
Yeah.
We see that Riri freezes up. So when the gun comes out, my thought is that that's not even necessarily how Natalie reacted. That's an interpretation, because she's an AI built from the memories in her relationship.
The same brain patterns. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I think that was kind of what it was, and I love that element about the character. I love that we have this conversation of, her brother comes out and is like, I hate this. Don't.
Yeah.
Why is this a thing? Don't. You're using her. You're. This is a puppet. This isn't a real thing. This isn't Natalie. This isn't my sister.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was really interesting, because it does tie in a lot to the ways that a lot of people today are feeling about AI and artificial intelligence. And I think it's such an interesting contrast from that reaction to her mom's reaction, where her mom was very much like, I don't know how this works, but this is like magic. And her mom is kind of into magic, right? She has a bit of I think she deals.
She's into crystals.
She's
and
into
like
crystals
and all that.
right.
Like the new.
It's her friend that obviously is really into magic with Miss Stanton. But in terms of her reaction, she was scared at first, but then she was very much like, this is such a wonderful thing that exists. And so it does really bring up this interesting concept about technology and in terms of how it's being used. And it's interesting that this sort of shows AI and technology to, at the end of it, even though it has its controversy and her brother probably still isn't fully on board by the end of it, it still sort of shows it in more of a positive light.
Mm-hmm.
And then magic on the other side, which we're so used to seeing be such a positive thing, is very much in the dark.
Which is beautiful. I love that mirroring, and again, it goes back to that what I said in that spoiler free about how one of Iron Man's greatest weaknesses is magic. And in the comics, it's multiple storylines where he runs into someone using a new type of magic that he's never encountered before, and has to turn to someone else to figure it out. He has to make his suit out of Uru metal at one point so he can fight Asgardian gods. Like, he's constantly trying to update his technology to become closer to magic, which is really cool. And seeing that story kind of almost laid out here in the origins, and with the way that this ends in that deal, who knows where the blend of magic and tech will go with Ironheart going forward. But I think it's so cool how they're using, again, they're flipping it around for us. Like, we've seen both sides of tech, we've seen both sides of magic. Everything in this universe can go both ways depending on who uses it. And just on the topic of magic, I've been thinking about Zelma, and I realized why I recognize the name.
Okay.
So
She's not
I
like
talked
she's
about.
not like did they reference Thelma and Louise? Is that it's not a Thelma
Nope,
reference?
she's
Okay.
actually a character from Zelma Stanton is a character from the comics. She in the comics. I mean, I talked about this storyline back when Multiverse of Madness came out, when magic was dying, and Doctor Strange was traveling through the multiverse trying to figure out why it's dying and who's killing it. And like one of the things that kind of kicks him off on this journey, and one of his like unwelcome or one of his unintentional like sidekicks that comes along on this journey is Zelda Stanton, who is a witch from the Bronx who gets infected by mind maggots and
Ooh.
ends up going like she was being possessed by them, essentially turns to Doctor Strange for help, and then constantly just keeps going back to learn more from the Sorcerer Supreme, and they go on this whole journey about finding out why magic is dying. I don't know if
Huh.
we'll go that route, but with the way that Clea shows up with Doctor Strange at the end there, saying you got to come with me where something's going
Oh,
on.
true. Yep.
Very much magic dying could be that route, and we could see Zelma pop up there. I did enjoy her addition. It was a fun little. It was fun to see again magic being talked about in a young person speak, almost like they were dumbing it down for a new generation, which is cool.
For sure, or just explaining it in ways that might be a little more relatable. I think
Yeah,
with
that's what I
her,
meant by dumbing it down.
sure,
Because I don't get the language, I
that's
think it's
fair.
dumb. That's all I mean. I'm sorry, no offense.
That's fair. That's fair. I think she says she brings up the mystic arts at one point. She says the western cortex of Neverish, a parallel plane, and all of this happens so quickly that it's both jarring and exciting, and also just incredibly like, okay, what's going on?
That's just magic, though, man.
Totally, and I completely get that. I did like her addition. I would have loved to have seen more of her. I think there probably was more of her, as we noticed that things definitely felt like it was cut down and reduced. I think the way that she's included in a lot of the press for this happening in and around now, was very much meant to be more of a main character, and I didn't feel that.
I definitely feel like that middle of the middle of the series where it feels like there was stuff taken out that would have explained a lot more of the Hood side, why
Mm-hmm.
they're so close and tight, and why they will do anything for each other, and more about why like how this suit is coming along so quickly.
Yeah,
Because again, she's making it in a garage that can't be easy. That's the montage we do get, while delightful and enjoyable, really covers way too much time. Like
yeah, it did take a while. It did take a
that's
while.
like that was not a short like, oh, we built it overnight. That was like
Yeah,
multiple weeks worth. There were several costume changes across all of them, including Natalie, who's AI and doesn't have
doesn't
to
need
change her
to.
clothes. She
No,
just chose to.
for sure. Although that does sound like Natalie, though.
Yes, I
But
love it. I love the fact that once you start figuring out how to do it, every time you saw her, it's almost like she was wearing something new.
and I would have forgiven the length of that entire sequence if we had gotten like her coming out in different iron suits from the closet and going back in over and over and over again. But that's just again my dumb '90s brain. I think it's interesting because America Chavez being the almost filling like that Zelma role that you described. It's an
Yeah,
interesting sort of change up that they've done where they very much are saying like she's learned this stuff off YouTube and off of like from old books and stuff like that.
I like how that almost sets her up though, because she is very self-taught or not, well versed. She may make the mistake of being infected by mind maggots, and that
Sure.
might lead to her turning to Doctor Strange in the future. Like, it is a cool potential setup. Again, like this show was really good at doing those. Like, just the way they brought in Zeke, and the fact that we got down to the big red guy of it all finally is just like this show does set up a lot of cool potentials for the MCU going forward.
Well, and I'm hoping, we're in a different era now. This was made in the era of a lot of Marvel, and now we're moving to the era of hopefully very quality spaced apart Marvel, but that also does raise the question of when will we see all this stuff come to fruition? But before we even talk about that even just a little bit, we got to talk about him. He's here. Mephisto, Sacha Baron Cohen. We were talking offline with Megan about like there are so many little moments throughout this series, throughout this season of little lines like when her mom reacts to Natalie for the first time and says, get behind me, devil," or whatever. There's so many different little elements of just sort of moments of the devil being referenced, or fighting your demons or what have you.
I just like how Zelma gets less sure every time they ask her, "How sure are you it's Dormammu?" And she keeps getting smaller increments. And it's like, oh, because she was wrong. Everyone, that was the great mislead. The way they handled that whole thing was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And so we got him. We got
Hmm.
Mephisto. We've been on this
Hmm.
train. We can finally, the Mephisto train,
Has finally pulled into the
has
station.
finally pulled into the station. Darcy, what did you think of this Mephisto reveal?
I honestly was freaking out because the entire time he's having this conversation, it's like this is weird. Dormammu wouldn't be this, you know, willing to see eye to eye to someone. We saw what he was in Doctor Strange as this giant amorphous spaceman who looked down on his thing, and he spent millennia. He never went down to Strange's level, according to all the battles we saw, at least. So, why would he be shrinking himself down now after what happened then? So the fact that it was this whole reveal that it was Mephisto, and just the way that we before he even says who he is, you just get that little spoon reflection of the upside down inverted face, and it's red man with yellow glowing eyes. You're like, hold on a second,
We're
I
here.
know that face. It
Yeah.
it was so cool, and yeah, his scenes when he's popping up talking to the hood and like switching in and out of that American accent or English accent, like just like kind of just being all over the place and just wild. It's just he gives great Mephisto energy. I'm buying everything he's putting down as the demon who makes deals. So I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there was some controversy back in 2022 with the actor with Sacha Baron Cohen. And I'm not sure what came of that or what is going on with that. But focusing specifically on Mephisto, he did a great job as Mephisto. I think he again, I like the elements of that sort of semi-casual. We've seen him give really excellent dramatic performances before, so we know he's got the chops for that. And it's not just a comedy or not just sort of this overtly manipulative character, but I thought he was great. I believed him wholeheartedly as this character, and I think those sequences where he is with Parker Robinson or Parker
Parker
Robbins
Robbins.
is those are my favorite moments with Parker Robbins in this show. I think I spoke about how in the spoiler free how the editing really messed up on a lot of this series. I will say the last 15 minutes of this show, of this sixth episode, it was disjointed editing, but it was done purposefully.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Justin about it. He said it felt very Nolan esque in how it was laid out, where you're watching it and you go, "Oh, she got Natalie back," and then she starts talking about Natalie being an AI, and then you're like, "Oh, okay, so she didn't shake his hand," and then it cuts it. The way that they weave that sequence back
You
and
don't
forth
like
to
they
keep
leave
you
it to the
questioning,
last minute is when you find out what the deal was is just
fantastic. I
so
thought it was
well
so well
done.
done. Yeah.
So
And I
well
was
done.
like,
I
where
loved
was
it.
this quality in editing the
And
entire
like
time?
I'm wondering because I think a lot of the hood stuff could have been explained if we heard. I feel like we talked about this for Multiverse of Madness too with
Hmm.
Wanda. If we
Hmm.
had heard Chthon whispering to her throughout that movie, it would have been more believable seeing her go down that path of darkness. If we had heard Dormammu, quote unquote, even if it's a very garbled voice, there's no way to tell it's Sasha, but we could hear someone talking to Parker, driving him in some of those decisions where there's more intimate and you can see him starting to grow apart from his family would have, I don't know, would have been more than just seeing a visual thing of the scars growing on his back. If we could have
Right.
heard that this possession or this manipulation grow over the course of the story, I think it would have landed a lot harder.
Yeah. And I think they're just, again, I think there might have been more
That just sounds like what would have been cut,
stuff
basically,
in there
is
that would have been cut.
they
Yeah.
would have been
Yeah.
giving away the Mephisto way too early. If they really want that last episode to pop with that Mephisto drop,
For
maybe they had
sure.
to scale back what his involvement earlier on. I don't know.
There was an image of the titles that was put out of all the different titles of the episode. And episode 5, I think, has the word karma in it. And the M has red underneath it, kind of thing. And it's like, okay, I mean, there you go. Maybe they want to again get people hyped up about it, but I think so many people have been so heartbroken on the Mephisto train, never
Yeah.
getting to the station, that maybe they think that people are a little more reluctant to have believed it. But no, It is real. The last thing I wanted, kind of as we round out this conversation and wrap up here, Darcy, with our discussions on Ironheart, and this isn't, if you want to reach out to us on Instagram at We Are Geekcentric, or on Twitter, Geekcentric YT. Please feel free to do so. We'd love to talk about some of these spoilers with you. But Darcy, I want to kind of wrap up and ask you the very sort of final lines there, before he says, "What did you say?" She says, "What's the catch?" And he says, "Oh, it's nothing you'll miss." What's the catch, Darcy?
The soul. Mephisto is all about collecting souls. So he just made a deal for her soul, because until you die, apparently in the MCU, your soul, you don't know it's there. It's only once you die that your soul leaves the body that it becomes something tangible, that you care about what happens, whether you ascend, whether you linger, whatever voodoo, magic, superhero shit that goes on. But Mephisto, like, that's how he gets everybody in the comics, is he makes bargains for their souls so they can have wealth, fame, power, everything they can imagine, that when it comes time for him to collect, then they're stuck in service to him. I mean, the greatest example being Ghost Rider being forced to be like, you have to go around collecting my debts because people have weaseled their way out of these deals. Cool. And I want my souls back. So
then that's an interesting concept there, right? What if we do see Riri Williams die at some point, and this is our introduction to Ghost Rider, and also the Black Knight and Blade?
It'd be really cool to go, because again, the mystic stuff is something they've only ever really dabbled in. We keep getting like teases about the fact that Blade keeps getting delayed, the fact that we had the Black Knight pop up randomly in the Eternals. Like, they want to tell these magic and mystical stories, and I feel like they were waiting for a good time to do it. And Mephisto is the perfect time to do it. He is your Thanos of the magical world. Like, he is the ultimate baddie when it comes to magic and all that voodoo hoodoo nonsense. So, like, I think it'd be really cool if they work that direction, where we do start seeing, you got Johnny Blaze pop up, or other characters tied to Mephisto in some way, and maybe they get together to overthrow him and stop him from messing up Earth, because he really wants to get everybody on Earth in his control.
And maybe do some of these characters die to
do so, yeah,
in either Doomsday or Secret Wars, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think, to me, everything we're talking about with Mephisto and some of this more mystic stuff, I just don't see how it could possibly fit necessarily between now and Secret Wars,
unless it was, because again, in Secret Wars, one of the worlds that Emperor Doom saves and pulls together to make the battle world, or whatever amalgamation it was a limbo or hell, like, inspired planet. Like, hell took over and everyone was possessed by demons. So that was a small continent on the planet. So it could be as simple as that, as like, oh, Mephisto in that universe won, and now we've got him coming over here to kind of fuck stuff over around again. I don't know. The whole multiverse is up in the air. I'm not sure if we'll ever be saying multiverse after Doomsday. I'm wondering if we're going to get that, like, single unification again and go back to just one timeline where it's easier to follow and care about, I guess. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens at the end of phase 6, I guess. Is that what it's called?
Is that where we are?
Is that the end of phase 6? Because this was the end of phase 5.
Right. We're getting so old. It's crazy. Wow. But only time will tell. We'll have to wait and see what they're cooking. I'm so excited to see sort of how we maybe kick off into that stuff with Fantastic Four First Steps, which we will be having some semblance of coverage for, at least a review, maybe some interviews. We will have to wait and see. But Darcy, thank you so much for joining me for this little brief, spoiler-filled, very loose little discussion that we're having here. Just because we had to talk about the Mephisto of it all. That we finally, my butt hurt so much from sitting on that train. It was so hot. I'm so happy we are finally, I guess, in hell. But if you want to reach out to us, you can do so on Instagram. You can follow our Instagram at We Are Geekcentric. You can also reach out on Twitter, Geekcentric YT. We're also on TikTok at We Are Geekcentric. And those are some great ways to keep up with what we're up to, because we are recording this far in the past, before even the first first 3 episodes of this series drop. We don't exactly know what is going on, but suffice to say, I'm sure it's really cool. So please go check it out on your podcast service of choice or over on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. Darcy,
Neat.
you devilish demon of a man. Thank you so much for joining me for this demonic discussion. And as we say, love ya.
Laters.